Welcome back, fiction fans, to Not Just Any Other Story. Anita Capri here with my awesome friend Corinne, who's back. She was here last summer actually, weren't you?
Yeah,
we did a few chapters of The Shopping Cart People. Now we're on series 2, short stories, and I'm super excited that Corinne's here for this one because the next 2 stories are actually true stories that happened to us. So this first one, Apartment Hunting, Smokey and the Bandit style, is based on a movie, Smokey and the Bandit. And there's a scene in the movie where first I'm going to give the synopsis. I think that might be the best thing to do. So I'm just going to read a summary. This is from the internet. This is not a summary I wrote, but just to give you an idea, Bandit and Cletus are 2 truck-driving Southerners who accept a dare from big shots, Big and Little Enos, to pick up a truckload of beer from Texas and return it to them within a specified amount of time. Picking it up is simple enough, but as they're leaving Texas, Bandit unwittingly picks up Carrie, a hitchhiking runaway bride who just left her groom at the altar. Her groom being Junior, the son of Buford T. Justice, who was a sheriff, right? Mm-hmm. And when Buford and Junior discovered that what has happened, they go on a high-speed pursuit across the southeast U.S. to catch the bandit. So Burt Reynolds stars in this. He's the bandit, and Sally Field is the runaway bride. And anyway, it's a typical 1970s movie, but there is a scene. So now let's explain the scene in the movie where Buford T. Justice is trying to chase Burt Reynolds, the bandit, in his Trans Am. And Bandit, of course, is friends with truckers, and there's a big whole trucker community, and they all communicate to each other, right? On CB radio, yeah. And they've all got all these like interesting code words and everything. So Bandit basically is protected by these truckers. They sort of box in the bandit. I think that's what happens, so that Buford T. Justice can't see him.
Right.
We had a similar situation where we weren't the ones being boxed in. We were being kind of chased, but we weren't the ones boxed in. It was actually the people that was chasing us, the guys that were chasing us. So we'll get into the story and you'll see what we mean. But anyway, when it was all over, we were like, oh my gosh, that was like Smokey and the Bandit. So anyway, let's get into the story here. And here we go. All right, Apartment Hunting, Smokey and the Bandit style. If anyone would have told me I'd live a famous scene from a Hollywood movie, I would have pictured something from a love story right off the bat. A hopeless romantic, the botched pottery making scene in Ghost, or the knight in shining limo scene at the end of Pretty Woman would have sufficed just fine. But as it turned out, I was somehow destined to play out a scene from a movie that had lines like, if they'd a cremated the sumbitch, I could be kicking that Mr. Bandit's ass around by the moon by now. And I'm going to barbecue yo ass in molasses. Not a likely scenario for a gal headed off to teacher's college. At least not for this gal. It was the spring of 1991 when I finally received the news that I'd been accepted at the Faculty of Education at Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario. I was excited and yet somewhat apprehensive at the prospect of living 3 hours from home. Having just been engaged, the thought of planning my wedding, which would happen just days after graduation in June, was a little daunting to say the least. However, assurances that help would be readily available when needed, and not knowing that my mother had done this before with my older sister, I set about the task of finding a place to live for my year at teacher's college. I'd planned to go apartment hunting on a weekday and to set out good and early in order to avoid the traffic on Highway 401, a nightmare on any given day in the Greater Toronto Area. My girlfriend Corinne had agreed to accompany me. Having spent a couple of her university years in Kingston, I felt confident that I would find something with Corinne as my guide. Heading east on Highway 401 in my white Honda Civic, we chatted and joked like 2 early 20-somethings would, truly enjoying each other's company and the bright sunny June morning that seemed to match the mood in the car and the hopes for the day. Once in Kingston, Corinne pointed out a few of the hangouts and restaurants she'd frequented, including the Chinese Laundry Cafe, a soon-to-be favorite. Then we were off to the housing office and then around town to cruise the area around the university where many of the students rented old houses and duplexes. Not long into our search, I soon decided that I preferred an apartment as opposed to sharing a house with people I had never met before. A bit of a clean freak, and having done the roommate thing before, I knew I needed to go solo this time around. Unfortunately, this option was somewhat limiting as one-bedroom apartments close to the university were scarce. We drove over to the Teachers College, which was not on the main campus, but on the other side of town. There we came upon a few high-rise apartment buildings. One in particular looked quite newish, and it was just a 5-minute drive to school. I walked into the lobby and buzzed the superintendent to ask about available apartments. He informed me that I had to apply to some agency and gave me the phone number. Having been the early 90s, owning a cell phone was not really commonplace for most of the working class, not to mention a struggling university student. And so after having found a payphone, I called the Home Something or Other agency, who then informed me I had to pick up an application from their office. Perusing the application over lunch, I noticed I needed a co-signer, hence the rest would have to be done from home with a little help from Mom and Dad. With no other prospects in our midst, we decided to call it a day, and after a quick look at the lake, we hopped in the Honda and headed for home. It was just after 2 in the afternoon, and Highway 401 was dead. About 45 minutes into the drive, we found ourselves on a long stretch of road that seemed barren of human life or activity, save the old farmhouse and dilapidated barn in the distance, and the once thriving gas station now abandoned and sadly overtaken by weeds and critters. Corinne was scanning the radio stations while I had my eye on 2 cars up ahead. Something didn't seem right. There was a little red hatchback in front of a large white Buick. Every time the hatchback switched lanes, the white car behind would do the same, but swerving recklessly from lane to lane and dangerously close to the car in front. When I approached from the right lane, I was parallel to them and looked over at the first car, the red hatchback. I saw a lady driving, somewhat of a frantic look on her face. In the back was a baby, his car seat rear-facing as it should have been. The woman glanced over at me, and when our gazes met, I knew immediately that she was panicked. At that moment, the large white car came up behind her, almost touching the back of her car. There were 2 men inside who were laughing, obviously amused by their careless attempt to intimidate the young female driver ahead of them, not to mention the risk in which they put her and her baby. By this time, Corinne had noticed as well, and after several colorful Corinneisms to describe the idiots in the white car, which, to our surprise, also donned Quebec license plates, we decided we had to stay with the lady. We drove beside her, nodding our heads in disgust at what was happening. Yet another situation in which a cell phone would have been ideal. A quick 911 call in the Ontario Provincial Police, also known as the OPP, would have been on their way. But we were at a loss. All we had were our wits and a 4-cylinder Honda Civic. Now, whether our decision to drive beside the frightened lady and her baby was wise or not, I wouldn't know. But it did accomplish one thing. When the 2 men in the car decided they would follow behind us instead, the young lady driver took off ahead. The white car switched lanes so that it was now behind my car, going 100 kilometers per hour and leaving no more than a foot between the back of my car and the front of theirs. "Just keep at this speed and don't change lanes," Corinne said as she turned the radio down. So that's about halfway through the story. Interesting. There was something that I read and it made me think of...
I forgot about the lady. I thought it was...
You did?
I did, yeah. Until you read that part of the lady, I just thought it was the car behind us for some reason.
You thought, there was a whole lady.
Yeah, I did not remember the lady.
Wow, no, I remember specifically because I remember that we were just like, my God, she's got a baby.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We were so freaked out by that.
Right.
And the fact there was nobody else on the highway. That's the other. I don't think that would be the case today.
No, the highway was very, very empty because I think we were driving back at an odd time.
Yeah, it was like 2 in the afternoon.
I was just going to say 2 in the afternoon, 2 to 3 in the afternoon, sort of odd time.
Yeah. And rush hour 30 years ago wasn't quite what it is now, right? So anyway, I'm going to give you. There was something that caught my attention, and I forgot what it was now, but maybe I'll remember by the time you finish.
Sorry.
I'm going to hand this over to Corinne. She's going to finish the story here. Now I've scrolled back, so let me find our spot again. Okay, so Corinne's telling me to keep at the speed and don't change lanes.
They began easing into our lane, forcing us to go onto the shoulder. I slowed down, they slowed down. I sped up, they sped up, all while trying to push us off the road. I could feel the angst in my voice as I asked Corinne, what are we going to do now? Having spent 10 to 15 minutes trying to stay safely on the road and shoulder without getting hit or losing control, I was completely freaked out and convinced that these men were out to kill us. Look, Corinne said, pointing ahead to a large transport truck in our lane. The men in the other car must have noticed too, because they sped ahead of us and passed the truck. We need to tell the guy in the truck to call the police, I said. They have radios or CBs, don't they? Well, how are we going to ask him to do that on the highway when he's driving and we're driving, Corinne asked. We have to write it down on something, I replied. Hurry, find a piece of paper or something. We're getting close. Corinne rifled through her purse and found a pen, but finding a piece of paper on which to write a message big enough for the trucker to see from our windows was not as successful. Hey, Corinne cried, there's some paper towel in the back seat. So there we were, me driving, Corinne holding up a paper towel sign in her window that read, "Call cops," while pointing at the large white car ahead. I don't know what the first truck driver was thinking, but judging from the smile on his face, I'm sure he thought we wanted him to either toot his huge transport truck horn or join us for a beer at the next pit stop. He doesn't know what the hell we're saying, Corinne said, disappointed that our foolproof plan wasn't exactly foolproof. Forget him, we'll try the next one. We didn't have to wait long. Within minutes, we came upon another truck, this one a little smaller. Corinne held up the sign again. He's reading it, she announced excitedly, and now he's saying something. What? She mouthed back to him. Get another paper towel and write down white car with Quebec plates, I suggested. Corinne did that and then tore off a third sheet of paper towel and wrote, drove us off the road. He's nodding, she cried excitedly, as if she'd just done something extraordinary. Oh my God, now he's on the radio again. She was ecstatic now. No way, I said, both relieved and surprised that the driver was actually going to help us out. Finally, we could nail those bastards. We drove off ahead, waving to the friendly driver and thanking him with a thumbs up. By this time, the white car was nowhere in sight. I was so disappointed for a brief minute, believing that our French friends and their fleur-de-lis license plate had gotten away unscathed. I wanted to scream, tabarnak, or some other Quebecois profanity. I felt so incensed that the crazy drivers were from Quebec, the province and the city that had been my inspiration and my love of the French language. It was, after all, my visit to Quebec City as a grade 8 student that had made me want to become a French teacher. Why did they have to be from that beloved place, I thought to myself. With these thoughts and regrets flowing through my mind, I drove on, determined to catch this travesty of gens de paix. Finally, within 10 minutes, we came upon a most organized convoy of transport trucks. They seemed somehow positioned, expressly positioned. As we got closer, we could not believe our eyes. As it turned out, the trucks had surrounded the infamous white Buick. It seemed our two drivers found themselves trapped amidst a sea of heavy steel and rubber. Two in front, one behind, and two beside the white car. Those mocking morons were not, to be sure, laughing then. When we approached, we found ourselves beside the convoy in the outer lane. The transport truckers all began honking their horns. We were in awe. It's Smokey and the Bandit, holy cow, it's Smokey and the Bandit, we were saying, giddy with disbelief that we were all part of this scene, this master plan. Having both grown up in the 70s, Corinne and I recognized immediately the infamous scene from the movie when the truckers hid Burt Reynolds and his Trans Am from Sheriff Buford T. Justice. Only, in this instance, our trucker friends weren't hiding the white car from police. They were holding it for the police. We hung back a little bit, and then one of the trucks in the left lane sped up, leaving a gap where the car could easily escape. The two men made their move and took off. It was just minutes later when a police car sped by us. But the story doesn't stop there. We had become somewhat of celebrities amongst the group of truckers that traveled the 401 highway because for the next hour and a half, every large truck with a radio that we passed honked at us, and we in turn would wave back amazed, saying each time to each other, "No way, another one knows us," or "I can't believe it, trucks are still honking at us." When the last of the honkers acknowledged the two girls in the Honda Civic somewhere around Scarborough, just on the outskirts of Toronto, we had forgotten all about the danger we and the lady with the baby had been in. For days, even weeks afterwards, every time I pass a transport truck on the road, I expected a honk or a wave. But alas, we were, Corinne and I, one-hit wonders that day. I will forever be indebted to my trucker friends who came to the aid of two damsels in distress, not to mention a young mother and her baby, and perhaps anyone else who may have come across the questionable Quebecers that day. Who would have thought that a day of apartment hunting could be such an adventure? I wonder if HGTV could top that episode, apartment hunting, Smokey and the Bandit style.
The end?
The end. The end. I
Do you remember everything now? Because it's been a long
I
time.
forgot how long the truckers were honking
Oh,
at us.
yeah.
We kept looking, saying, "Oh my God, another trucker
Yeah.
that knows us," because I'm sure.
And we would get so excited because we're like, I wonder if this one's going to honk, remember?
And they must have signaled, little white Honda Civic.
Yeah. Yeah.
That stupid little Civic that was bombing around, the 401. And they knew the car.
Yeah, they knew the car. They probably described it. And who knows how long those CBs, like, do they, I don't know really how it works.
I think they have quite a range.
Yeah.
And
or they probably went ahead.
One signal to the next.
Next, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unbelievable, eh?
Yeah, that was, I remember how scared we were.
We were really scared,
when the lady, she exited, I think we saw her on.
Yeah, I think we saw them on an exit ramp too, because I think the white car got off and the OPP passed us.
Yes.
The police passed us, yeah.
And I'm sure the truckers signaled that he got off at the exit because
I'm sure they
see
did.
far beyond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they were drunk. I actually think they were drunk.
Probably drunk, and it was a joyride, and they just thought, let's intimidate whoever we can.
Yeah.
And it's a big joke.
Yeah.
Not understanding
the scariest part for me wasn't even when they were behind us. It was when they were beside us.
Yes.
And we had to keep going over onto the shoulder of the highway. And I just thought, like, I can't go at this speed on the shoulder.
Right.
So, and we would slow down. They would slow down, right? So, yeah, that was pretty scary.
Right. Yeah. It wasn't the behind piece. It was when they tried to really
run us off the road.
Yeah.
Gosh.
And if you would have hit a soft patch or anything going at those speeds, we could have easily been in the ditch.
It's interesting because if they had called the OPP, I always wondered about this. Why didn't the OPP contact us or me?
Well,
like if they caught them and they were doing stuff, like, because obviously the truckers would have had to say something, right?
I don't even know. I mean, if it was trucker reported of reckless
driving,
they just take it from the truckers. They
I guess
think we were relevant in that anymore.
Yeah.
Because it was reported by truckers that saw what was happening on the highway. So the damsels with the little Honda Civic were one-hit wonder irrelevance.
Yeah, but how smart of them to have rallied like that and boxed them in.
Right.
I just love that part.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, I think
we were so excited too. Remember, we're like, oh my God, this is like Smokey and the Bandit. We were just like, I can't believe it. Like it was just, not that it was a fun day, but, and I remember we got home. I think you were still with me and at my house and my parents were there and we were like telling them what happened. And my dad, I remember him going, no kidding. Like he just couldn't believe it either. Right.
Yeah.
So, and I don't even know when I wrote this story, but I don't think it was that long after. It was probably a few years after, not right away, but I remembered in detail what happened.
The part where the truckers kept honking. I
think truckers are pretty good. I think if you were, although I find that now they're pretty aggressive drivers now. Like they drive fast now.
Yeah.
Not all of them, obviously.
You know, when I do the stretch from Toronto down to New York along the I-90, there's a lot of truckers that
Oh, yeah.
will just, and you know, truckers in the U.S. are not allowed to be in there's two lanes, the regular lane and then the passing lane. And unless they're passing,
Yeah.
they're not allowed to be in that lane. And a lot of them now sit in that lane because they don't want to be as slow as another truck, but they're not technically passing.
Yeah.
And they will cut you off. I've had to slam my brakes a few times, and that never used to be the case.
I feel the same way. I feel like, I don't know, is it because, well, I know in Canada there was this whole thing with the truckers. The shortage. And remember how they had like the protest and they went in Ottawa and blocked off all the streets and everything and the F Trudeau signs and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know if that made a difference or if that affected, but then some of them are like, I think if you needed help, I honestly believe that, like, you know, they would help you.
Yeah.
I do.
I think so too.
Yeah. Or take, and like some truckers take animals they find on the side. Like, okay, I'm going to go into my rescue cat thing or rescue dog thing. But they do actually a lot, you know, you see even on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, they actually find animals on their travels and take them in, which is really sweet.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, I think we're going to end it there. People can maybe watch the movie now.
Right.
It's an oldie. It's an oldie but goodie. And you know what? And interesting about that movie too is that from that movie, they actually became a couple, Burt Reynolds and Sally Field.
Right. Yeah, for a while they were.
Yeah. And then she started to get roles.
Yes.
And she became very famous. And actually, they say that their relationship, that was a bone of contention, was how
he wasn't getting roles,
or just not as big roles as she was getting. So, you know, who knows? Like, you never know what's behind closed doors, what goes on. But they stayed together for quite a while, I think, and never ended up staying together in the end. But they're really good in that movie together.
They are.
I love Sally Field anyway.
I do too. Yeah, she's a great actress.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, so we're going to end it there. I hope everybody enjoyed. And please tune in to the next episode because Corinne's going to join us again for another true story called Beach Picnics. So that's a lot of fun, that one. Oh, my goodness. Please join us, and I hope you enjoyed this one. Have a great day.